It seems like we are live and just wanted to check in. I'm going to take a moment to see if indeed I'm actually live. Yes, I am. All right. So, welcome to everybody here at the Spiritual Alignment Collective. And if you don't know, we cover every Sunday morning, at least Pacific time, PST, at 9 a.m. Whatever, and you can translate that whatever time you have right now as you're watching. This is the time that we usually go live. Shakti and I, we alternate one week and the other. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about a variety of different topics. We've covered from how to develop the power of your intuition, the the connection to spirit guides, and what that looks like. I also covered last time just about the power of your mind and what you can do in understanding your mind better so that you can make more conscious choices and decisions. And today we are talking about the idea of safety and more specifically, overcoming the illusion of safety. And before I get into it, I just want to double check saying hello to everyone, just setting up my little piece here that I can see and just make sure that I get all the questions that I'm looking up right now. So just give me a moment. But yes, it's a beautiful day here. And when I say beautiful, it means lots of snow here that we're getting. And I'm just wanting to double check on our page here, Spiritual Alignment Collective, making sure I capture answers. So the Spiritual Alignment Collective is where, if you're seeing this live feed somewhere else, aside from the Spiritual Alignment Collective private Facebook group, then join the group because what will happen is that I will be taking questions from the group itself. And if you're posting questions somewhere else, it's going to be hard for me to look at. So really, if you are able to, go ahead and join the group and you'll see me there. And so, hey there, I see Bev, I see a variety of folks here. Let me just see what do we have. We have Shakti, we have Brianna. All right, Brian, Bev. All right, so I see you folks. All right, so let's take another 30 seconds and get started. So just making sure that we're all here. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a weekly session that we offer just for passing on information, passing on things that we've explored, Shakti and I, and really answering some of the questions that are out there. Not that we are the experts, but simply things that we've experienced, that we've shared, that we've known from our own experiences, and just passing it on. And if it helps, great. If it doesn't, no big deal. Keep living life, right? So so today I want to talk about safety. And I say the illusion of safety because safety, I consider it that we are always safe. And when I say this is that, we look at this world in a physical terms, that we have this body, we have, this is our life, this experience, this environment that we're in. And when that gets broached in some way, then we feel unsafe. And so it could be physical safety that we look at, it could be emotional safety that we can look at. And that creates this challenge for us. So just imagine, before I get too much into the depth of things, just imagine you stepping into a situation, any circumstance. When are the times that you show up in your most authentic self? And when are the times that you retract or you act differently than what you normally would. And it's often a consequence of safety. If you are fully feeling safe in your body, in your emotions, then you show up just fully, authentically. It's very easy for you to do that because there's no worry about protecting you, protecting yourself, protecting against anything inside or even outside of you. It's just all you have to do is be you. And that's the best place to be, in my opinion. I feel like that's the best place to be, is where you can just be yourself. But what gets in the way is when we don't feel safe. For me specifically, when I don't feel safe, I close up, I put walls around me, I cut myself off from the rest of the world because I feel like that's not going to serve me. And for you, you might have a different reaction. But think about it. If we solve this challenge of safety, so much opens up for us. And if you remember from the previous live that I shared about the mind, I shared this story about me being on climbing up our mountain, our hill that we have, and being in this open space. And I say it's the most peaceful place on earth just because literally you can hear the sound of silence. And so I was there by myself and just sitting there thinking all these different thoughts about my own safety. I could not relax. Even in the most peaceful, serene environment, I had challenges with safety. And this is what we strive for. We want to be in this place of bliss. We want to be in this place of full, just being able to connect with ourselves. But when the safety thing comes up, it takes us away. And I shared the other day that I had so many thoughts going in the back of my mind around, am I safe here? I know there's animals that are here. I know there's coyotes and maybe not so much snakes right now in the wintertime, but there are snakes there here as well, rattlesnakes. And those thoughts were so overwhelming that I had to stop and take a breath and just check in. For me to actually find a place where I could potentially just sit and enjoy the silence. I was not enjoying the silence. I was in the silence. I had the perfect circumstances, the situation around me, but I couldn't enjoy it. I couldn't be myself. And that's what I want to highlight today is, we put ourselves, we think we can put ourselves in the most ideal environments. We can hang out with the best people. We can hang out, engage in activities that really allow us to shine. But even in those situations, if there's anything, even just one thought that triggers our safety, all of that's going to go downhill. And that's what I learned rather quickly through this experience of just being on the mountain. And I sort of knew this, but it became more real for me to know that this one thing of safety really throws us off significantly. And so this is why this causes a challenge for us, is that up until we can find that level of safety within us, it's really going to be difficult to show up in our full, authentic way. And so here's what happens on what I say, like I guess a physical and emotional, internal, energetic level that happens. Whenever we are not feeling safe, the energy tends to want to come up here, where, if you remember, or you might have heard of this, that whenever your body's in a defense mode or it wants to protect you, all of the energy concentrates to the vital organs to protect them. And so a lot of times our energies come up by the heart region or even in the brain region. And that's not the best place to be when you're not feeling safe. Because what will happen is that if you're up here in your head, you'll have all of these thoughts that will derail you in terms of, like I was having that experience. I wasn't feeling safe, and it was, I was really caught up in my head around, what are the animals here? Am I really safe here? Am I, do I need to watch out? And I literally was watching around me to make sure, I would close my eyes, trying to meditate for a bit, open the eyes again and say, okay, anything here, anything there, and that cycle kept playing. And so when we are up in this area, it's hard for us to feel safe. And safety is really, if you look at the energetic chakra systems that we have in our body, the root chakra, the first chakra, is about physical safety, bodily safety. The one above that, the second, or the sacral chakra, is really about emotional safety. And then the third one, the third chakra, the one at the solar plexus or by the belly, is about just your own physical power. And so one way in which you can really, if you think about it, rather than having all of your energy come up here and kind of cause a flare up at the higher levels, you want to make sure that you are coming back down into those first and second and lower chakras, because without that bodily safety, that emotional safety, it's not, you need to take care of that first. Because once that's taken care of, then you can be in your heart, then you can be in your throat, then you can be in up here in the upper realms of your body and your energy, because you are coming from a place of safety. You are coming from a place of, and that's where you shine. Like I shared, I remember when I know that I'm in a safe place. Like there was uh, an event or conference that I had attended many years ago, and there are people I immediately met as soon as I walked into the door. I met and I connected with them, and it just gave me this feeling of like, hey, I feel very connected here. And over the course of the next 2 days in that conference, I was just fully in my presence, fully shining. Like I was just very present with everybody that I met, individuals that I met, and it allowed me to really allow me to stand out, or not even stand out in the way that I'm trying to, highlight myself, but it just allowed me to fully show up. And that's the power of when when you have that innate feeling that, hey, I am in a safe space. Sometimes that happens. For me, that happened naturally, because I met people and I felt comfortable, and it kind of gave me this immediate connection of safety. I mean, there have been other times where I've gone into situations and really with this cautious kind of vibe of like, I'm going to feel things out. I want to see where everybody is at here before I show up fully. And you might have done that yourself. If you just give me a yes, or like, hey, I've done that in the chat, so that I know that this is something that you can relate with, where you go in with this cautious sense of, can I really be myself here? Can I really show up here? And that's the trick. That's really where you have to start with. So I bring this up because sometimes it's not so easy. And when I say this illusion of safety, I'm going to take it a little bit deeper here, is that we identify, like I mentioned in my previous talk about the mind, we identify with the ego, we identify with our mind, we identify with a lot of these things that we feel like who we are, our identity. But in reality, we are always, always. The way you can anchor on this is that always see that everything is working out for you, no matter what situation you're in. Each and every circumstance that you're experiencing is working out in your favor. It might not be pleasant. It might not be something that you're thinking like, oh wow, this is all bliss and angels and fairies and all that kind of stuff. Like it's all great. It might not feel that way, but everything is working out in your favor. Everything is working out in, and I anchor on this quote is that, the universe cares about your well-being. It doesn't necessarily care about your comfort. And so, you know, being in a discomfortable or uncomfortable position is natural. But it does care about your well-being. So you are always going to be safe in this world that we're in. We might not feel it, like I said, but it is, that's the way it works. It's really how, if you think about all the situations that you've experienced in your life, it may not have been comfortable. You might have had a lot of difficulty and challenges and even trauma and things that have come up for you. But what it's really leading you towards is your overall well-being. It's really leading you towards a place of, hey, you are perfectly fine, you are okay. In in the Hindu terminology, or in Hindi we call this Maya, the word Maya, Maya, which is really like equivalent to the word illusion. We think and we perceive certain things to be real, but whereas it's just a illusion of something that we have to come to terms with. And so these primal fears that are within us about our, keeping ourselves safe, keeping our body protected, keeping our emotions protected, are constantly running in the background. And this is something that, as I was mentioning earlier, you have to allow yourself to be grounded, to allow yourself to really connect with that, with the first and second chakras, third chakra as well, to really feel that level of safety. And how do you do this? So I know a couple of things, and I'll share an example. So I work with clients one-on-one, and when I do coaching with them, oftentimes they'll share something, and immediately I'll say, "Oh, okay, that's a safety issue. You're not being able to be yourself because there's something that's triggering you internally." And so you have to find ways in which you can find safety. One client, for example, she had a tough time expressing to her manager around certain things that she wanted to experience. She wanted to take on more of a managerial role. She wanted to take on more responsibility, and just didn't feel safe sharing that, for feeling that her manager would come back and not respond to that well. And so we looked at that. We explored that and said, okay, well, what is the assumption there? And the assumption is that you have these worst case scenarios that come up. The assumption is that if I share something, I might have this experience of, creating conflict, maybe even losing my job, maybe even having some situation come up where uh, I feel closed and I won't be able to fully show up. And so we looked at that, we explored that, and we realized through that dialogue that it's just an illusion. That, the chances of all of those things happening is very small. And I said, well, if you can't live your life in your truth and being really authentic and stepping into the world with your full power, what's the point of even having this job, right? What's the point of even, you know, you'll spend more time worrying about what hasn't happened or what may happen versus actually just stepping in and saying, all right, this is what. And so she was able to have that conversation and dialogue, and it worked out. She was able to get the things that she was looking for and experience in her work, and it worked out for her. And the same client later on, as she was working with other individuals and even leading some folks, it was hard for her to to share with somebody like, hey, could you do this thing? And what she was worrying about is that, how this person would react. And so I asked her, like, well, if somebody doesn't react, it's not because of you. It's really because of they're feeling some level of unsafety. So maybe you check in with that. So if you are noticing people in your life who are closing up or who are not really responding to you, or maybe they're responding to you in a way that is like very defensive, I guarantee you that it's a safety issue that they're feeling. And so if you step back for a moment and bring your place to what I'll call this place of neutrality, where you're not judging them, you're just witnessing them and saying, oh, okay, this person is not feeling safe, and this is why they're reacting in this way. That you're having some reaction here. What's not making you feel safe right now? And just asking that question can open up a dialogue where they can bring down those walls, where they can allow themselves to fully be real and authentic with you. And that's the key, is safety for yourself, but also safety how you can witness this in others and create a situation where you can have that dialogue. You can open up levels of safety. Once again, it's not your responsibility, but you can just take that question and ask somebody, here's what I'm noticing. Here's what I'm seeing. What's not making you feel safe? And see what they say. And so for you, how can you find safety? There's a couple things you can try. I know Shakti in her intuitive awakening program, she talks about this idea of grounding or creating a grounding cord for yourself. And it's a really great tool if you, in that moment, feel like you can't find that level of safety. And what it is essentially is that you create energetically a cord that literally goes from the root, your tailbone, down into the earth, to the center of the earth, and really using the earth as a place to ground yourself, to ground all of this energy that's bubbling up and creating a kind of like overload for you. Just like tall skyscrapers, skyscrapers, when they have in the middle of a lightning storm or a thunderstorm, they have a like a pole, a grounding pole that they have that allows that lightning strike to hit, and it grounds right into the earth without causing any sort of explosion or anything that would overload that building or that system that's there. And similarly, you create that grounding cord for yourself so that when there is an overload, when your body is in a state of shock or feeling unsafe, you're able to ground yourself and really take that charge into the center of the earth and allow the earth, which is the most literally the most grounded entity that we are working with, allow the earth to just absorb that, allow the earth to take in that energetic charge that you're feeling. And that's one way to do it. There are other ways in which you can think about is, I've taken some martial arts before, but I primarily practice yoga and the yogic asanas. And when I do this, there are some poses that can be helpful. I recommend, if you've ever done martial arts, there's something called the horse pose or the horse stance. And really what it is that I'm gonna show you right now, is that you stand and you just squat, keeping your feet a little bit further apart. You squat and just allow yourself to feel the energy at the lower regions, where, even into the legs, the thighs, the genital area, the, the tailbone. When you make yourself, you can try that right now for yourself. Just stand up and come into a squat and really bring your attention into this whole pelvic region. And if it's hard for you to kind of visualize this, you could even just look up and Google right now, horse stance in martial arts, and you can see how people are doing. And this horse stance is the basic stance in pretty much many of the martial art modalities, is that you get into this horse stance because it's the state that you can do other things from. It's a state that where once you have that safety and protection and stance where you can truly anchor yourself, then everything else follows from that. It builds on that. And that's the key, is giving yourself an opportunity to do the horse stance as well. And I have one client who takes this very seriously, and I said, practice this, because whenever you're feeling unsafe, put yourself into a horse stance. And he does. Literally, even if he's having a disagreement with his wife or disagreement with anybody, he'll get into this horse stance and have a dialogue from that place. And he said it makes a huge difference for him to be able to put himself in that stance, really feel that safety in his body, and then taking it forward from that place. So try this for yourself, even right now. So let's take a quick moment for those of you who are on and watching, is just come into a seated position for yourself. And let's forget about the horse stance right now, but just come into a seated position. And you can relax your eyes for a quick moment. Take a couple of deep breaths. And just notice your energy. You might notice that it might be more up by the heart area and in the upper realms of your body. And the key here is, as you continue to breathe, just allow yourself to sink, bring your attention and awareness down to the belly, down to the pelvic region, down to the thighs, and continue to breathe. And just feel yourself there. Just really feel everything around this pelvic region. Really just sit and anchor yourself in that space. For the men, you could even anchor into your tailbone, into your genital region. For women, you can anchor yourself more into your, a little bit above the tailbone, just that sacral region, into your emotional space. And not trying to do anything at all, just really being there, being in that space. And that's the idea, just continuing to give yourself and just notice. And you can sit there for as long as you like. You can sit there for a couple of minutes. You can try this practice, whether you're at work or even in personal life. Whenever you feel this level of, I don't feel safe, bring yourself back to this space, because this is the space that gets, I'm going to use the word triggered, but that's not the word I want to use necessarily. It's, when it gets, when this space, this pelvic region, and it's not given a lot of attention to, it will flare up in some way. So you really need to come back down into that space and just saying, it's okay, you're all right, we're safe. And that's the key. Really notice that. And this is something I want to offer out to you, is that, going forward, as I shared, you can be your absolute best when you are coming from a place of safety. When this whole space feels like, all right, I don't need to worry, I just need to be me. And come from that place, start from there. And that's really what I wanted to share today, is that, there's a couple of things. So what I've shared today is really that this idea of safety is really an illusion, that, like the universe has something against us. Like I said earlier, it's not, the universe doesn't really care about your comfort, but it does care about your well-being. And your well-being is where your safety lies. Your comfort is just a feeling that keeps you, I guess, feeling like a fake feeling that keeps you safe, that makes you feel safe, but it's not really the true safety. Step into your well-being. Know that you are, and that's part of it. Part of it is just the knowledge part, and part of it is really embodying that knowledge in your body, which you can do by grounding into the lower chakras. So that's one thing we talked about. Also shared about this idea of just noticing others. When you see and witness around you other people shutting down, or other people reacting in ways you're like, wait, what's going on here? Ask yourself, what's not feeling safe for them? Maybe you can figure it out. Maybe you just need to ask them and saying, hey, I'm noticing that something is happening. What's not feeling safe for you right now? And see what they say. It'll open up some interesting dialogue. And no judgment there. Maybe they might still not speak, and that's okay. But at least you can pose that question and see where it goes from there. And then lastly, using the grounding exercises, whether it's from using the grounding cord like I shared about, that as I mentioned, is really part of one of the first things that Shakti covers in her intuitive awakening program, and really using that as a tool, or even stepping into this horse stance and really allowing your energy to come back down, because it's going to want to come up here And this cannot handle the upper space of you cannot handle when it gets an overload. It needs to come down and ground itself, just like a skyscraper cannot handle a lightning strike by itself, but it needs some sort of grounding cord all the way down into the earth in order for it to actually sustain itself, and allow that for yourself as well. And keeping this time open for any questions that you have, any thoughts you have, any concerns, curiosities, let's open up our dialogue with you, and I'd be happy to take on anything from you. So let me know. So I'm just looking at some of the chat here, and hey there, I see Suzanne, I see Brenda, I see a bunch of folks here. Pallavi, JP. Pallavi, yes, you've practiced the horse dance before. Yes, that's awesome. I'm glad that you are able to do that and know what I'm talking about. Hey there, Supriya. Feel free if you have any questions. I'm here. All right, Bev. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bev, that it resonates with you. I'm glad that it did resonate. And not even just about resonating, but I'm glad that it's something that you can take with you and embody. And this is the whole key. It's not about just knowing these things, but actually putting it into practice. And hopefully you can practice some of these things that we talked about. All right, Brianna, yes. True grounding. I see your comment here. And this is really what it is that, like I shared earlier, we're not experts in all these things, but from our experience, what has helped, yeah, these are little things that have helped us and as have helped me, because even up until 2 weeks ago, I couldn't find that level of safety, even in the most peaceful, most serene, most calm place that I know of. And that's the challenge of like, how do you now put this into practice? Because it's really an internal game versus anything that you can do on the outside. Yes, Bev, I am very similar to you. I'm also the one that doesn't speak up because I feel unsafe. And this happens quite regularly for me, where if there's something that I'm like, I go in with very cautiousness. I go in with this level of like feeling things out. And until I know that something is a little bit more safer. Whereas if I just go in and with that assumption, or go in with that feeling of like, hey, I am safe no matter what. I don't need to feel things out. I don't need to, assess whether or not I'm going to be safe here. I just got to be me. And that's the practice I'm working on as I'm sharing this with you is, this is why I picked this topic today, is because I know that there's a lot of layers to this. And, you know, in order for me to show up fully, in order for you to show up fully, this level of safety has to be there. Otherwise, it's not going to, it's just going to get in, create challenges for us to be ourselves. Yeah, and feel free to offer what questions you might have specifically to, situations where you don't feel safe, how you can work through that. If there's anything specific that comes up that is creating difficulties, any of those questions are open. We can have a dialogue, and we still have about, can go for the hour, or we can conclude here. It's really up to you how you want to take this further. So let me know if there's anything that's coming up. All right. We'll give it a couple more minutes, and if not, then we can conclude here. Okay, so I see a question coming in from Bev. All right, so Bev, you're saying is there anything that, when you have when you have a physical pain reaction, when you're feeling unsafe? And so this might, you can clarify a little bit, but what I'm assuming here is that pain, whether it's like a headache or whether you feel like this knot in your stomach or whether you feel some sort of tightness in your body, my assumption here and my guess here is that your body, because of that feeling of unsafety, it's creating this reaction, this physical reaction in your body of like tightening up, and there's a tension that gets created. And that's the first place of, whenever we feel in a place that we don't feel safe, we are going to tighten up. There's a lot of tension. There's a lot of, contraction that happens. And so this physical pain is probably a reaction of like just a lot of tension being created in your body. And you specifically said in your sacral area. So yeah, so I would certainly recommend is, whether it's the horse stance or whether it's, just taking your breath and bringing it down, all the way down to the pelvic region. And that's the underlying process, is that wherever you are, whatever pain you're feeling, is to bring your attention and bring a sense of just breath down to this pelvic region. And you could even breathe into that pain where you might be feeling, and just breathe into that sacral area and just take your breath, and literally with your attention, with your mind's awareness, bring that level of attention down to that sacral area and see what happens. Explore that. There's no one way that's going to work for everybody. But the idea here is that if you can just make that shift from being all the way up here to bringing it yourself down here, that in itself is going to do a significant amount of service to you. And bringing your breath, bringing your mental attention down that way is also going to help. So being physically down in that pelvic region, in that thigh region, in that genital region, all of that is going to really help diffuse any of that tension. And so that's the place I would recommend, and see what happens. Like I said, it's really your exploration that's going to help. These are just suggestions that I'm putting forth that might be helpful or something to think about. But the main key is going from up here and bringing your energy down, because that's what's really going to help ground. All right, I see your question, or I see your comment, Brenda. Is that pain in your lower abdomen when feeling uncertain? Yeah, and that's what happens, is that all of our energy is wanting to come up this way to keep our vital organs and everything, like I mentioned earlier, to be protected, and it's just it doesn't know how to ground up here. And so coming back down, this is why there's that little reaction that you feel in your body, is that you have to come back down there. As awkward as it may seem, is like, why do I want to go back down there? That's where the pain is. Well, I'm going to take a quote from Shakti. She said, the only way to deal with your crap is to go through it, and to be able to give yourself uh, full permission to go through it versus trying to sidestep it in some way. So, uh, lower chakras, that's going to help. All right, folks. Well, I seems like the questions have slowed down, so I really appreciate your presence here today, and truly appreciate all of your conversation and your contributions to this. It's always a co-creation. It's never just one person sharing this. It's always, all of our energies coming in and bringing in this level of interaction and dialogue. And so appreciating you in being here, your time and your attention. And we'll have another Shakti will continue next Sunday with a topic that's still TBD, but she will continue. And In the meantime, there's still open enrollment for the Intuitive Awakening program that Shakti is offering. It's something that, if you want to build some of these tools that can help not only for physical safety, but feeling safe in your energetic space, in your intuitive space. These are some of the tools that also carry forward in that. And she goes into quite a bit of detail into how to get tools and techniques and processes to bring that level of safety and understanding and awareness around the things that you're doing. So here, signing off, saying thank you to all of you and appreciating each and every one of you, and we'll catch up in another 2 weeks. So Shakti will come next week, and then I will be back the week after. And till then, feel free to add any questions in the collective chat. Happy to answer any follow-ups, or if you watch this as a recording, feel free to post any questions and be happy to address it. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.